Today we're doing a Carter number 3943S. Fits 65 to 69 AMC 199 to 232 with vacuum wipers. Also fits a 70 AMC with an inline filter, same engine. A 71 with a 232 and a 258 with vacuum wipers, and a 69 to 70 International with a 232 AMC engine with vacuum wipers. We're going to go through it. I'll show you how to rebuild it in case you get a kit for one of these. The number you're looking for when you call up to order a kit is right there. It's on one of these flanges. It's real light to see. You can't really see it. There's other numbers on here, and they should be on this side here. Anyway, if you call it for a kit, give them that part number along with the application, and they'll be able to set you up with a kit. First order of business is, hopefully you'll have a vise. Doing this on a bench is kind of difficult. Now this will only go back on one way due to this vacuum port right here. So there's no need to mark the location of everything. You know, and you can scribe it if you wanted to, or take a picture of it, or draw a picture. In any event, we want to. There's 4 screws here. They're all Phillips. We want to undo 3 of them. Hold off on the last one. There's a big heavy spring right in here that's on top of the diaphragm, that if you were to undo that, it would, and you weren't holding on to it, it would send it to the moon. So let's get going and take these 3 screws out, and I'll bring you back on the last one. Okay, here's the last one. I'll give you an idea of the strength of the spring. It's almost like a valve spring. Anyway, there's your inlet and outlet valves. We'll get to that in a minute. And we got a gasket here we're going to have to get off. Take your razor blade, your scraper, whatever you want. You'll get a new one in the kit. Actually, I think he sends 2 of them. I don't know why. I think some of the original ones they put on 2. Because this area wasn't always flat. Now this is Carter's version of a vacuum diaphragm. Grab a pair of pliers, grab that nut, and lift it straight out. Use the arm for a little bit of leverage. But these are what this is called as a push rod, as opposed to the fuel side, which is a pull rod. We'll get to this, taking this apart, after we get the rest of this out. Down inside here you got another 2 valves. Now in order to get them out, take a decent sized screwdriver and just keep prying at it. And it'll come apart. You're not going to save any of these pieces. And down inside here, you probably can't see it. We're going to drive the screwdriver right through that, right through the center, and come out and pop it out. Same thing with this one here. We're going to drive it through these bunch of these holes and just pop it out. You're not going to hurt anything. This is why I say it's using a vise is a lot better. Just get it out a little bit. And pop it out. Now, down inside of here, Carter decided to put a screen so we could filter the air. I have no idea why. I don't see any need for it. Again, just drive the screwdriver in through it, and with a little luck, it'll pop it out. And this one came out in pieces too. Sure to get them all out. There's no filter in this side, but it is full of oil. Flip it over. You're all done with that. I'll flip it over. Now this is where you want to mark the location of the inlet and outlet. You want to mark this piece, and the bottom piece. So we want to here, here, and here. Or like I said, take a picture of it, and you can refer back to that when it's time to reassemble. You got a bail here that holds the bowl. Now a good portion of Carter's bowls are made out of metal. This is the bail. And good and dirty. On top of this filter is a spring. Hang on to that, you'll use that again. Take out your filter and throw it away. Now we want to undo. We got 6 screws here. Now I got to test them and make sure that they're all unscrewable. A lot of times these screws will be stuck in here, like that one. We also want to remove this fitting. It's a 90-degree fitting, and you never know what's going to be stuck behind it. So I take them out. Now when it comes time, when you get this pump back, or when you go to reassemble your pump at home, use Teflon paste on the threads. Don't use Teflon tape. The tape gives you a false sense of strength. And it tends to make you superhuman. Now on this side, the spring that I showed you on that was on top of this diaphragm, on this one here it's below the diaphragm, so it's not going to send it to the moon. It will pop up if it becomes loose. You know, it was starting to eat away at the aluminum. And this one's stuck together. I have a putty knife. Put it in between the castings. And a few hits will get it loosened up. is your inlet and outlet valves. We want to remove these two screws, but we're going to wait when it's time. We'll get to that after we get the rest of this apart. Now, in order to get this diaphragm assembly out of here with the spring and the pull rod, we have to remove the pin that's behind here. So the first thing we want to do is take that spring out of there. Now sometimes you can see the pin. I don't have any pointers. You can see the pin down inside of here. Sometimes there's a little clip that snaps in there. In the event that, well, Carter felt that in the event that this soft plug fell out, it would keep the pin from sliding out. But as you'll see in a moment, that's absolutely impossible. Now, a lot of times there's a little piece of casting sitting in here that holds that soft plug in. So what we do is we'll get a sharp chisel and go from one side to the other between that plug and the casting. Just keep going back and forth, and it'll work its way out. It's time for this pin. Now, on other pumps, that pin will just slide right out. Not on this type. What we have to do is we have to go in here and aggressively knock it down through. I'm a dope. We want to go the other way. Can't believe I did that. You know, there's the pin almost all the way out. But I ran out of, well, it's back in there again. I ran out of punch. Here it is. So, that's it on the floor now. Well, luckily I have a handy dandy magnet to retrieve things like that to fall on the floor. Otherwise, it'll stay there. Now, to get this arm out, we want to put a little pressure on the diaphragm assembly and slide the arm out. It's usually stuck in there. It's sealed around this area here inside the casting. This is almost ready to go into the bead blasting tank. We got one more plug right here. Now, same as the other soft plug. Well, it doesn't always come out nice and easy. Sometimes you have to drill it out, which we're going to have to do. As you can see, I knocked the top right off it. That's alright, we're setting this aside. So we're going to go to the vacuum casting. We're going to take all the old gasket off. Now these are pretty easy. What I do is put a rag over this opening in the vise, set it down, take my punch, and knock it out. This one's going to take the other piece, my extended version here. Again, another filter. Nothing but clean air goes in these pumps. That's ready for the bead blaster. Let's take apart the vacuum part. These two big screws. Now, these parts are stuck together too. So, we locate the putty knife. In between the two pieces. A few good whacks, and it'll come apart. Pulsated diaphragm and the valves. To remove the valves, and it'll be easy just to put this back again. That's the end of one of the valves, and that's the end of the other one. So we'll get a nice small punch. You don't have to hit these hard. Just tap, 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 and it'll drive them out. It's only in aluminum. Throw away the old parts. You're not going to reuse any of the old valves. All of this. Throw all of it away. Now this is ready for it. What else we got? This piece. Our vacuum. Wrap it in the vise. Remove this nut. There's a nut, a lock washer, and a flat washer. Take the two halves apart. That's your vacuum diaphragm. It's just a giant O-ring. Now we want to clean off all the oil. Be careful taking this other piece off, as there's a washer here that's usually stuck to the bottom of it. Yeah, I'm going to run this through the wash tank along with a few other parts. And when I'm done, they'll be all glass beaded, they'll be clear coated, and all the surfaces will be flat. And it's going to take me a few minutes. For you it'll only be a second. I'll be right back. Okay, a minute has gone by, and what we want to do is put in these two valves first. And this one goes this way, the other one goes the other way. These are mostly just moving air. So diaphragm assembly, the arm, what we want to do is we want to push this down so that you can get to that top. Now the new pin is going to go in a lot easier than the other one. Remember I was talking about, see that slot right there? You might get a pin, a clip to go in there in the kit. Sometimes they send them, sometimes they don't. You don't really need it. The pin can't slide out through there, and there's no way it's sliding out through there. And we want to put the spring back in. This can be tricky. The way I do it is I catch a flat screwdriver in one of the open coils. And using the screwdriver and leverage against this piece of casting right here, just squish it around. We want to put in the valves. Oh, hang on a second, I get the valves. Okay, first thing to go in is the rubber plate and the spring, and then the rivet. Just move it around until you can find that hole. And then using a punch on the top, press it in. We want to bring it so that it's just about a 1/16 of an inch through that casting. Be careful you don't break that casting. And repeat the same thing for the other side. Okay, you want to put on the pulsator diaphragm. We want to block off this hole right here, the larger of the two, as that's where the fuel comes from underneath, comes up through here and gets bumps into this and gets forced out. Now if you follow your reference marks, and run the two screws in. Sometimes it's easier just to put them through that pulsator diaphragm and then into that casting. Tighten up these two screws. Now at this point you can test the outlet valve. It says out. You can suck air out, but you can't blow air back in. It's just a dead stop. You can't test the inlet until you put the filter in the can and then all the rest of the stuff on there. So here it is. You notice that it sits up. That spring is going to hold the filter down. Get it caught underneath there, lined up, and we just want to make sure that the can is sitting down inside that little lip there. It's not caught on the edge. Now you can test the inlet. You shouldn't be able to suck air out, but you can blow it in. Perfect. And we want to put in this is for the vacuum side. And this other one just sits right at the edge. You just want it to be flush. Now we want to be able to suck air out and not blow it in. For the other one, we want to block this vent hole off. Now this is the wiper, so that the pump's going to produce a vacuum. Your wiper is going to go onto this, and it says right on the casting, it says wiper. And if you could see it underneath this fitting, it says MAN, which is for the manifold. So the manifold's going to be, the pump is going to be pushing air up. It's going to be pulling it to the intake manifold, and this is going to go to your wipers. Okay, it's time for the fuel casting. Find your reference mark that you made when you were taking it apart. What we want to do is put in two of the screws, put them through the casting and through the diaphragm, through the holes. Makes it easier to assemble everything. Now you want to take these screws, just run them down about halfway. Don't tighten them up all the way. That would be a big mistake. Now these Carter diaphragms from the factory are a little bit bigger because of the way that they flex. So we duplicated that. And when you go to put it together, you'll see that the holes don't really line up. And sometimes what you have to do is take that arm and pull the arm, and it'll shrink the holes, the hole diameter. Now this next part is you have to preload the diaphragm. In order to do that, you have to pull this arm like that. As you can see the diaphragm moving, it's pulling it down inside. You just hold on to that and tighten. Try to tighten 4 of the screws. Bring them all the way down. Once you get 4 of them done, you can release this arm. Then tighten up the last ones. Now by preloading the diaphragm, you're making it so that if you didn't, you'd end up stretching the diaphragm, and it would end up failing early. Wouldn't last as long. Once you get all those screws tightened, go back to your arm again, and you can test it. This side is done. By testing it, you're making sure that your seal is done in here, that the gasket is sealing in here, and the diaphragm is sealing. Flip it over, and we're ready for the vacuum side. Now, we don't want this area to run dry, so what I do is I take a little white grease. First we're going to put some in the hole in the center for the pull rod or push rod, and I run a little bit around. And we want to put some on this. Now we want to leave this loose. By doing so, it brings that O-ring seal that you put in earlier that I didn't show you how to do. but you figured it out. Now we want to get it started. Take a small screwdriver and just help that seal get inside there. We want to put a little pressure on the arm. We don't want this real tight. Leave it a little loose. It's not going anywhere. Put on your giant spring. The gasket. If you weren't able to flatten out those surfaces on this end and in here, use 2 gaskets. Now, same as the other fuel side. Get 2 screws. Now you got to try and compress this spring. You can run these down all the way. Doing opposite corners. It helps. You tested this earlier before you put it on here, so you know that these are going to work. The only reason I say that is to try to compress that spring with the arm, even with the leverage on it, it's really tough. That brings this one to an end. Here's the number I was telling you about. Stamped right in here. So all we need is a gasket and bag it and ship it back. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section down below. And subscribe if you haven't already. Like, share, hit that notification bell, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.